This is the Bible Forum. It is Palm Sunday, March 25th, 2018. We had a march on Washington this weekend. We're watching yet another demonstration against senseless murders. In this case, by gunfire. And it should be clear, I would think by now, that something is seriously wrong. And it isn't guns. You see, we've had reliable guns around since the 15th century. That's the 1400s for you public school graduates. If you look at the implement itself, it goes back further than that into China. We've had automatic weapons since 1718. A fellow by the name of James Puckle, or Puck Lee, invented the Puckle or Puck Lee gun. It's a tripod-mounted single-barreled flintlock with revolving cylinder. It fired 9 shots a minute. We've not had this sort of gun chaos that we're seeing now until recently. Hundreds of years. Nothing. I'm talking about people using guns to settle a dispute or to satisfy their anger, their frustration, their warped values by killing a bunch of people. Oftentimes it's not personal. It's just, I want to go kill these people for whatever reason. I want to make a statement. There was a thing called the Roaring Twenties. We had mobs, we had bootleg whiskey, alcohol, turf wars, and all the rest of it. But even then, the larger percentage of killings were done with smaller weapons and usually face-to-face, not mass destruction. It's the movies that glorify the machine gun. No, something else is going on. Something else has happened in our culture. It's something we have done, either by default or by deliberate activity. It has to do with the way people think. It has to do with values and moral standards and with societal influences and familial chaos. We have a whole stable of people who are ready to blame emotional disorders, brain chemistry, poverty, circumstances of life, and just about anything that comes to mind, except our corporate values. There have always been criminals, as long as there have been people on the planet. And criminals think differently. Criminals have problems. But largely they have no scruples. For them, it's simply me. And after me comes, well, me. And if you get in the way, well, they'll tell you it's not their fault. It's just business. There's something else afoot these days. And I think it's spiritual. And I think it's moral. I think it's something fundamentally opposed to the concept of corporate society. Fundamentally opposed to the concept of a decent society. We've given alternate names to things like stupid, or self-centered, or dysfunctional, or ungodly. We don't call them that. We've got 75-cent words that we put to them, or words that communicate something else, like it's not your fault. We have young people, and I count young people 15 to 35, who actually believe they have no choice but to kill people who have hurt them, to kill those that have cheated them, insulted them, abused them, or maybe just simply refused to accept them, even when they don't know the people they're killing. It's that group, or it's people like them. And for these killers, it's more of a statement. Some cases it's a scream for help. But more often than not, it's just pent up anger, pent up frustration. Where's it coming from? I think it comes from the family, or more specifically, the lack thereof. And I say that because the family is the basic building block of society. You can look around and blame the schools, you can blame the police, you can blame the kids, the gang on the corner, you can blame anything you want to blame. Blame your pet dog. But the family is the basic building block of society. Look at the most recent event, the one these 800,000 people are demonstrating about. A young man with no parents. Not sure where his parents are. He was living with his grandmother, and she died. And he's been living years in what has been obvious to professionals, to teachers, to people that he was living with, obvious that he was in pain. There's something wrong here. He was having serious emotional problems. He was screaming for help. But at some point, he just saw he had no choice. He didn't know where to turn. He didn't know what to do. He wasn't getting the help. Nobody was giving him the attention, the purposeful attention that he needed. His family system broke down. With his grandparents gone, the legal system didn't work for him. The social system didn't work. The medical system didn't work. The psychological system didn't work. The police didn't work. In the end, he felt horribly alone, frustrated, angry, desperate. Can I suggest to you that this boy represents a large percentage of our young people today, at least to one extent or another? Both parents off working, children farmed out to others in their infancy, in their formative years, in the critical years of their development. If the family remains intact, which half do, it's a fragmented thing. Not near enough time, not near enough understanding, not near enough patience, no peace in the home. All of this is operating at a high emotional level, magnified by the music and the videos and the phones and the social media. And half of those families will end in divorce, statistically. Sometimes 2 and 3 divorces. In many cases, moms will be left to raise the children by herself. And I'm here to tell you, no mom knows how to raise a son. No man knows how to raise a daughter. Not really. I can feed them, clothe them, protect them, make sure they get everything they're supposed to have. But that's not what we mean by raising a child. That's sort of like raising a puppy. It takes more. And if these parents that have now broken up or are fragmented ever marry again and again, there's another crack in the social development of children. The parents who remain largely do not know how to parent. Now, these are statistics. These are large, broad strokes. There are isolated situations that are perfectly wonderful. But the parents today were raised statistically by people who did not see parenting at work in their parents. We're talking about the grandparents of the parents today. Their parents were emerging from the rigid values of those grandparents. Things like tell the truth, always, no sex before marriage, honesty, integrity, hard work is what makes a marriage strong. David Reisman wrote a book called The Lonely Crowd, a study of the changing American character. He, along with someone named Nathan Glazer and Ruel Denny, published by Yale University Press. And I go into that kind of detail because I want to cap it with the idea that this book was written in 1950. The thesis was social character, something that flourished in the 1940s and 1950s, but shifted away as Americans began to move from their parents' values to that of their peer group. They called the former social character. They called the latter inner direction. This inner direction was more responsive to the peer groups, to the media, to the music, and all the rest of it. That would have been in the late 60s, 70s, 80s, but we've now seen it explode with the digitalization of everything, movies and music, and with Facebook and Twitter and the internet and all of that. Now we have children 3, 4 generations away from anything that looks like a family. Children getting their values from the media and from their peer group. And at least in the last 30 years, we've watched our society become more dysfunctional. We've watched our society become more immoral. Even as parents have given up parenting, children are now raising themselves. Their values, their philosophies, and so forth are being forged by faceless others. They're concerned about what somebody in the Twitter universe cares about them or says about them, or what somebody on Facebook did or said. They absorb what's around them rather than being protected from what's around them. In that critical time when they're being formed and discipled and trained. They no longer have parents who know or recognize the differences. Can I suggest to you that in this environment, nobody is safe? And it doesn't mean safe from guns. Guns or no guns. Nobody is safe. You see, it is your value system that keeps you safe. Character qualities and values forged in over 6,000 years of human history. Qualities rooted in the Bible, God's Word. Unchanging values and qualities. Communicated to the next generation by loving parents who have a greater investment in you than anyone or anything else in the world ever will. I'm talking about society. I'm talking about the contemporary culture. The march today on the Capitol, or what is it, yesterday, was all about limiting automatic weapons and raising the age when people can purchase them. It's all sound and fury. It feels good. I'm doing something. But it is an entirely short-sighted and almost useless effort. However, these children and the media make it sound like it's the wisest thing anyone has done since the beginning of time. Who are they fooling? Not me.